To Drupal Nights, hosted by BioRAFT. Tonight we have Ed Carlevale talking about Drupal in higher ed. Take it away.
Thank you. So my name is Ed Carlevale, and I'm here to talk about Drupal in higher ed. I worked at MIT for a long time, so this is an issue that I've been trying to move forward for a very long time. I feel like today should be Groundhog's Day, because definitely a lot of trial and error on the way to this. So basically this is an overview of the Pantheon for EDU platform, which I just think is a brilliant platform, and it just solves so many problems by just moving the hosting somewhere else so that universities can focus on content. This is going to be my new, I have a blog called Horizontal Genius. Today's fiefdom is tomorrow's dead end. So I just had to stick that in there. So this is the real start. So a little while ago, I just realized there was less pressure on getting websites done. And I realized that academic websites are like printed telephone books. They're just not the front lines of anything anymore. And so there's no pressure to actually improve the process. Where things are happening are on Facebook and Google and all those places, even in academic websites for departments or something like that. So I think we're going to reclaim that, but I think this is a fundamental part of why there's not so much pressure on it. And yet I think it's incredibly important. There's a huge need for academic sites. At Harvard with Open Scholar, because they make it so easy to spin up new websites, the explosion of sites is massive for research centers, for portfolios, for art students, for faculty, in all sorts of different ways. It goes far beyond just the standard departmental school sites. And personally, I became a developer because I think that academia has to communicate publicly what it's doing and engage in a public conversation. I just feel like it's a fundamental piece of what's missing in terms of the environment, in terms of sustainability, in terms of all those things. The whole cycle of just getting money to produce research is just not good enough. There has to be a public discussion, and it has to happen on a website. So that's my thing. So basically, I'm going to present the Pantheon for EDU environment. So when you get a basic Pantheon account, even Pantheon just by itself, I just think is, and they're not paying me for this, I just actually really like it a lot. So you have your website, and when you put it on Pantheon, this is what you get for free for, most people worked on Pantheon, or? But no. Dave, no, okay, then I'll go. So this is what you get when you just, an account is free. And this is, so the dev test live environment, Drush to work with all your sites. So this is just standard, and you can actually have a lot of sites even if you don't have an EDU account. I had hundreds Pantheon, even before I did it. But once you actually go after a Pantheon the EDU account, so you're logged in and you just fill out this form, and the URL is pantheon.io/edu. So you just fill it out. You say who you are. You're that. You add some people, and if you have any other Pantheon sites, it automatically pulls it into that thing. So I don't have any in this one yet, but I'll show you one that I do have one. So this is it without it, and this is the Pantheon for EDU environment with it. So you get those two tabs, people, so you can add teams to the group, and your own distributions. So this is their dashboard for a Pantheon for EDU account. With the screenshot, it doesn't really show you how cool it is, but so you can have lots and lots of sites. It's hard to figure it out. So let me find this slide that would help with this. So let me back up here. So in a university environment, right now there's two ways of having websites. You can have a single site that if you're a department, you hire an outside developer to deliver a site to you, or you have a university-wide platform like Open Scholar or like Drupal Cloud that is available to the entire university. So you have those two extremes. What Pantheon for EDU does, it makes it possible to have a much more mid-level thing. So if you're a department and you have your department website and you have institutions within that, you can cluster those things into one group. And work more effectively with it. And so these are your, they just, okay.
So in the back it's a little bit hard to see. I see site names there. Is that, you're saying like chemistry department has a site and the biology department has a site and all of those are grouped together so that you guys can work towards common features together?
Exactly, and you can work off a base distribution. So, so they call it an administrator. But I wonder if I should go to the live. No, maybe I won't. But yes. So if this is your platform, and you have like 20 sites on it. You have various roles. So let me just. I think it will become clear in a second. And one of them, the role is a site manager. So that person doesn't have to be a developer. He can clone a site. He can spit up a new site for a new need within it. So if there's a research group in it, he can work from a distribution and hand off that site. So you don't need to engage a developer to bring in that that site. And that's a powerful thing in a university, because in a university, there's not developers. There's communication, a director of communication, communication managers, and a staff office assistant who's the webmaster. So there's no person who's going to have developer skills. So so they really help with that issue. So if you're a site manager, you can't see it, but so I created a fake site manager called who's Daryl. And he's the manager for this fleet of sites within the School of Engineering. So the School of Engineering, the chemistry department has their website here. Civil and environmental has their website. Okay, there it is. So all of the major websites are here, and it's controlled by Daryl, who's logged in. So now he's going to create a new site for someone, say a new research center. So you choose one of your distributions, and when you have an account here, you have your own distributions. But right now, he's just choosing a standard one. Oh, this is the page I was looking for. I don't have a screenshot showing the finished site, but he spins up a new site for someone. So another role within the Pantheon for EDU account is the developer. So this is the powerful piece of it for me, that you can outsource the development to a development shop. When Pantheon first launched, it was a developer-centric environment, so they imagined a world of freelance developers who have Pantheon accounts and build sites for people. Most developers I know have gone to work for development shops. So that universe of development support for university websites doesn't exist. What does exist are development shops. So this is the structure I was trying to describe in a university. And this is what you have to work with when you're trying to, maybe I should back up and say what I've been trying to do. So universities across the country are moving to Drupal. Harvard has, MIT, Tufts, every school you can think of has adopted Drupal as its central platform. But I don't think they've solved the problem of how to efficiently provide these sites to people. They're really struggling. So what Pantheon does is break down that development into smaller groups. And so on Pantheon, this could be one account, but more likely this is one agency account. And they have their own website, and you can engage the support of the larger group. Right now, there's hundreds of sites, and they were all developed by individual developers. You have to go back to that person leaves. All the sites are broken, they're unmaintainable. It's just, and they struggle to just reproduce the simplest things. So I'm urging outsource to development shops. So this is actually a detour, but I think this is an important point I want to make. So does anybody know the managing news distribution?
Yes.
So it was developed by Development Seed in 2009. And I think it's like the most brilliant thing that's ever come along. It had so much really cool functionality in it. And the other day, the page of developers popped up. So Dries, Moshe, Earl Miles, John Van Dyke, every superstar you can think of collaborated to produce this and Open Atrium. That was in 2009 with Drupal 6. In 2010, Phase 2 bought Managing News and Open Atrium. And Phase 2 released Open Atrium 2. Open Scholar took a lot of these, like Open Scholar is Harvard's Drupal platform. Did anybody know Open Scholar? It's a brilliant piece of work, but it's unmaintainable. So it's only good for Harvard. So the work that they did isn't helpful to the rest of the community. That's what I mean by a dead end. When Phase 2 took those ideas, they paired up with Panoply and Panels, and they went down a path that turns out to be the common path, and it's much more sustainable. So it's brilliant ideas, but it's a sustainable thing. But the point I want to make with this is distributions are hard. They're not, it's not just a matter of a splash page with some teasers and you post content inside. It takes work, and you need to engage a development shop. And what Pantheon allows you to do is you can focus on just spitting out sites, and the developer can support you. And it reduces the developer role from an overwhelming thing to a very small role in a maintainable way. Parable over. So I've been working on the Open Atrium distribution. I keep urging them to release an academic version of it because I think it's so brilliant. So what I think a place like MIT or Harvard, they should have their own group of distributions. A standard distribution, one for conferences, one for research centers, one for research labs. And it should all be feature-based, so you could just check off your features, and all those features should have documentation and help pages. MIT spent 7 years building Drupal Cloud. There's no documentation, there's no help pages, there's no features, there's nothing. It just should be a standard thing. So these are my miscellaneous suggestions for improving academic development. I think we should get development out of IT and try to engage libraries. They're all over for walk-in support. So to get web help, just go to the libraries. The picture doesn't go with it, but the idea of here was that for theming, to pay undergraduates a year-up fee, so an hourly basis, to give them a design and have them turn it into a theme relevant to your distribution. And this is another talk I'm giving on March 9th. So this talk for me is about trying to improve the efficiency of the process. There's no efficiency in the process right now. Everything is handmade, it's expensive, and it's unmaintainable. So I could show you site after site after site that the moment it goes live, it's frozen. There's no, it's literally frozen, and years go by, and the communication team have no way of working with the content in any way. So this is about trying to bring efficiency to that process. But the only reason to have efficiency is that you can move on and actually do something new. So you move off of this idea that we're going to have a carousel on the front page, a little group of teasers, and start engaging with the content in a much more dynamic way. So we're not like a telephone book forever. So that's it. Michelle has a question.
How does Pantheon and the specific higher ed distribution help you communicate as a site builder or someone who as a content editor? How does it help you communicate to figure out what needs to be done? You talked about these communication teams.
You have to do that on your own individual website. Pantheon doesn't have any tools in that. What they do preeminently is you can add people to your team. And they're creating a vendor page so that you have a list of vendors who have built sites within this institution. So that if you're a center, you can see a list of the work that vendor has done, and through their dashboard you can engage that person in your problem, and you give them immediate access to your site. And it's temporary, so they have a developer access. So the Pantheon for EDU environment has 4 roles, and one of them is a developer, so you can give them access to your site. And they can also maintain like a long-term relationship with you. But no, there's none of that, the communication that you're talking about. You have to do that in a different way.
You're the head of a department or school, the IT group there. Can you say, yes, I'm going to empower, say, every department to have a website, and inside that department, every lab can have a website. So you can empower them to do that. Is there any way to enforce any standards? Can you say, this is the base thing that all of you guys need to start from? Not just Drupal, but my version of Drupal with already features and theming in there?
Exactly. So that's what's so powerful about Pantheon for EDU, that it's distribution based. So you begin with any site that you like, and you freeze that as your distribution. And every feature that's in it, you create that into a feature that someone can turn on or turn off. So it works from a base set of features and a base distribution, and then you theme on top of that. Yeah, so that's the whole point of it, that you have a base collection of distributions, so that you're not reinventing the wheel with every single site over and over and over again. You can modify it in any way you want. And everything that you do add that's individual becomes part of the collective thing. It becomes part of the feature set available. OpenAtrium uses an app library, so they have a very so you can add Workbench at the drop of a hat, you can add profile, and lots of complex filing stuff. And I think that's the way everyone should work. I created a series of features, so it's not quite an app library yet, but it's close. Yes.
So you keep talking about how flexible it is, and you have that basically template that you're starting from. What if you want to change something in that template? Does it automatically go to all of the things created thereafter?
No, absolutely not. It's only relative. Once you've turned on that feature within your own site, it doesn't retroactively change other features. You can customize it however you want in your own thing, and you can always revert to the default settings that are the standard ones. but you can customize it, and it's only to your site.
So what if the defaults are changed? So, some sort of rebranding is done, and so now this should be blue instead of red or whatever. Is there a way to sort of push that out to everybody else, or is that a large undertaking?
No, that's the exact reason to be working with the distribution, that exactly those things are pushed out. And that's what Pantheon, I told myself I'm not going to go to the live thing, because once I start there, but no, that's what Pantheon makes so brilliant. It's literally just a click. And that you don't need to be a developer, because they give you those 3 environments. You click it, and with their dashboard, so their dashboard is just, I think, amazing. And so when you're here, and so say you're Daryl, but you could also be any other one. When this is live, you can drill down very, very quickly and just show you 5 development sites. So you can see that, and immediately it tells you which needs updates here. So if you're only looking at the 5 thing, if there's one of those live sites that need an update, it will tell you the only one showing, and then you go to the site and you just click it and you're updating, and off you go. And yeah, Lisa?
So it sounds like what you're saying is that they're giving academic environments a tool where they can have this sort of more intermediate role between a full-fledged developer who may disappear on you or is very expensive or difficult or whatever, and the poor person who's running the department and has 5,000 other things to do. And it's a person who can be in the middle there and can help with dozens of sites so that they can be used effectively, and that they could do something like deploy a change to that package, the distribution, if you need to rebrand or whatever.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, each site isn't so frozen that they can't make changes on their own. They could bring in some random developer to build something that they need specifically.
Yeah. I was originally going to do this, so I thought the base of operations should be at the level of a school, because I thought that would be large enough. There's a director of communications in this department, so they would have a couple of 100 sites there. But it's so malleable that everyone with a couple of sites should have their own account, and they should be plugged into all the hierarchy above them. So you have complete control over your own thing, but you have the support of, so if you're a research center, you're a research center within a department, and that department is within a school. So you have this hierarchy of support.
Can you tell us a little more about what that support is, or what you mean by that support, or what being tied together means?
Well, let me show you what you don't want. So I had 3 cautionary tales. So these people are my obsession. This is a research center. So academia is being remade around research centers. It's not traditional school departments. NSF and the National Institute of Health have funded long-term 10-year projects that are interdepartmental, multi-institutional, so they have very complex things, and they have an urgency of communicating because they're trying to develop new science. So it's not this, we're having a lecture, come, and these people are doing synthetic biology, they're doing very complicated things. So this is the Weiss juggernaut. He was just on the Colbert Report. They're doing synthetic biology. So this is their website. You can't see this, but they won a Webby Award in 2012. I don't mean to be sarcastic. I still love to work with you, but they have no control over their website. So it went live in 2012. But since 2012, this bar hasn't moved. Meanwhile, on Monday, they had an announcement, a science discovery of a new cloning that was on every front page of the New York Times, every scientific journal. It dominated everything. They couldn't get it, and when you actually go to their offices, it's like being in Times Square. It's extraordinary what they're doing. They have no control over their website, so they couldn't have that news on their own website.
And the reason for that is because it's this fractured.
It's this ridiculous way of developing. You outsource to a developer. There's just the ball's dropped.
There's no economies of scale.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
everyone's reinventing it.
And it almost seems like there's a natural opportunity here at these institutions of higher learning to train the next generation of Drupal and open source developers by getting your students involved in developing these features with management and oversight.
Exactly.
And it would be nice to see that institution start to incorporate that sort of program within what they're offering.
And that's exactly what so around 11:30 at night last night. So Pantheon made a very, I think a really interesting decision to bring in WordPress. So as part of this example, I created a WordPress site, and I just thought, oh, this is justifiably awful. And I can understand why people like it, because it's so easy to work with. But it just made me realize how much better Drupal could be. And so that's why I broke it down from school and tried to make it more modular, because it's such an opportunity for people to start learning it. It's like they learn how to do Microsoft Office, they learn how to make a presentation. They should have not developer skills, but the skills necessary to do this. And it's so simple. So begin building out those communities is exactly the goal. Yes. Why did I have that one in the middle? Oh, this is my obsession. This is Civil and Environmental, another award-winning site from 2006. Well, I'm never going to go anywhere so this site won every web award when it launched. It must have launched 10 years ago. Frozen ever since. They haven't been able to do anything with it. Civil and environmental students are the most extraordinary at MIT. They travel the world to engage in projects, and they come back and they write a blog. Try to find the blog on their award-winning post. So there's dozens of blogs on it, but they have no control over their content, so it's buried. It has no way of migrating to the front of the site. That's more of an issue for my talk at Harvard, but the point of developing efficiency is to have a better platform so that content isn't stuck in another region where you never see it again. If you have an event, you need control over it, but you need control over the platform first before you can start fine-tuning it. But that's what you want, control over the content. If you have a new blog post, you want it to migrate up to the front page, and you want the site manager to be able to work with it in some way, but they can't do that. Finally, okay, I'm really digging my own hole, but this is MIT's environmental initiative. This is a Squarespace site. MIT's very vaunted environmental initiative is Squarespace. They have a Drupal platform that no one's using, so they needed to get a site up, so they launched with Squarespace. I still can't get over that, obviously, and it's been several months. But what Pantheon would solve so brilliantly here is, so MIT has about 10 major sustainability programs that they're starting. Each one is left on its own devices to try to get something up and running. With Pantheon, you could have a sustainability account or an environmental account, and you have a distribution, and it would just get you up and running, and you'd be networked with the other people. So when you have an event, it can show up on their site. It can be used in some way. It's not siloed in some another region. So these are my drives. So this is single site development, and this is university-wide. The problem with single site development, so these are all individual sites, and they can be as lovely as they want, but if you have an event in here, you have no way of getting the event to show up in any other places. If you have a developer problem, there's 50 different developers who did that thing. There's 50 different types of code there. If it was unified in some way, in the way that you have a common base, it would be easy to jump in. And a developer, so if this was a Pantheon EDU account, just imagine a line here and a little developer here. The developer could provide support very easily to this fleet of site. So it's a massively more efficient way of web development. So this is MIT's Drupal Cloud. And I thought of the best way to explain Drupal Cloud. So before MIT's information services launched their own Drupal platform, MIT vets a new release of like Microsoft Office in Illustrator, and they vet, it takes 6 to 9 months before, when Microsoft releases it, before you can get it in the community. Because all they do after 6 to 9 months is say, yes, you can use it. So you can imagine what site development is like. But I just remember that anecdote of like, oh my God, if they think they're vetting. So I started to try to explain the structures in the school. So I think each one of these should have their own organizational account, electrical engineering, so that all of the research labs in there, I mean, there would be hundreds of sites within there. This is like the bottleneck. So right now, electrical engineering only has this main site, but there's all faculty in there who want their own research group sites. So that's the bottleneck and that's the need. And so imagine that across all of this. So that's what Harvard discovered when they released the Open Scholar platform. It just opened up this explosion of sites. Michelle.
I like the idea that you're assigning different administrators within Pantheon to be able to handle things like that, but I'm wondering if it would be more effective to have only the electrical engineering site, but within that have a group for each of those subsites, rather than a unique domain or an entirely brand new website. Just have a group within that, and even have theming controls to say my group color is purple and the other group color is red, and so they can differentiate themselves, yet they're still using all the same tools, and now you need less management because it is only one site, even though it's supporting 100 labs inside electrical engineering.
And that's actually what I do, and that's what I do with Open Atrium. So whenever there's a need for that kind of replication, I don't do 50 different sites. I do it very much like Open Scholar does it, in the sense that it's one distribution, and that's a brilliant piece of functionality in Open Atrium. That if you created one site that you like, you can freeze it as a blueprint and spit it out. So it's all sites within it. It's not a subsite. It's not multi-site, it's a sub-site. It's using organic groups and it's brilliant. But that's exactly how you would do that. You wouldn't want 50 different sites. It's too much of a nuisance. Yeah. But you want to be, if the faculty member wants to leave or wants to take that thing with them, you want to be able to give them their standalone site. And it's easy to do that as well. But that's exactly what you want.
You said that all universities are going to Drupal, pretty much. Could you speak to the driving motivation? Maybe it's obvious to the people in this room, but what do you think sort of is causing that or has caused that? And is it game over for any other alternative? I mean, effectively, it's been now dominant. And apart from the platform issues you're talking about, just saying Drupal is the choice. What's going on?
Well, there was such a long lag between like Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 and Drupal 8 that at MIT there's been a mass migration to WordPress because people are just they want control over it. I don't know. Tufts has a 2-year plan to roll out a Drupal 8 platform, and so they're putting serious resources into developing it for over 2 years. I think that's a mistake. I don't think they should go underground and try to do something. They should start now at what they can and have it evolve. But I love the fact that they have a university-wide plan. And Harvard Medical School is doing something similar. They're making massive
But in Drupal, so but,
yeah.
I mean, if we took the top 100 or 200 or 500 universities in the country, what share would have already made that decision that Drupal is going to be their primary platform?
Let me take Ben's question and I'll come back to that. While I would say 75%, like within a couple of years, 75 to, and then government is going to follow too. There's just WordPress. Can I just say one thing about WordPress? Because I was at a meeting the other day and they said they're shifting to WordPress because it's going to look better. And I folded my arms defensively. I said, so I don't know if this issue comes up. Ben, you ask your question, then. No, I'll do my rant about WordPress in a second. What?
There's a couple things I want to unpack.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So first, when you say you can, have a color propagate through sites, that's because you're always doing the sub-themes every time you say, this is the department-wide, base, and then I have a school-wide base, or whichever way that goes, and then like a specific thing is going to be based on that. So, the only way to propagate like a change in background color everywhere would be if each one is using the site above its theme as a base theme. Is that how you do it?
Yes, pretty much exactly. I'm using the colorizer module. So you have, like 10 presets of color patterns, and so that's in the theme, and it spits out. But basically, I didn't really focus so much on this question of color. I just meant in terms of something that you want to propagate, and sometimes you don't want it to propagate, and you definitely have control over whether that happens.
The issue of university-wide things going to Drupal is sort of like when they're deciding to take a university-wide level and they look at it, it's like Drupal is the one that gives the most control. And so when the university is trying to take back proliferation of WordPress, Drupal, Squarespace, whatever sites and make something consistent, there's no one really contending with Drupal for, what a university can see as the level of control they can, in uniformity they can impose while providing flexibility, I think is what's driving everyone to choose Drupal. But when you're talking about sites that, no one can't edit the front page of, you have to try really hard to misconfigure Drupal in such a way that you can't log in and change something on the front page, whether it's a single node, or it's blocks, or it's views that update. It's really hard to mess that up. So is it that people don't even know how to log into the site? Does Pantheon as a platform give you a way to say, create a user on this site, or or change an email address of user number 1 on the site? Does Pantheon give that?
It doesn't, but when you have this is fundamental. In all the meetings I've been to, I've never once heard any developer mention documentation or maintainability. But when you have your own distribution, it's in your interest, because you're going to use that distribution over and over again, to actually provide documentation for it and a user how-to. So you have a tour and you walk people through how to post a blog thing. You walk people through different levels of it. When you're building a one-off site, people are too tired. You want to hand off the site. It's going to go live. You want the applause. You go home. There's no thought beyond that. But once you start working with a distribution that becomes your thing, it's basically a wiki, and the community starts contributing to it.
I definitely agree there's challenges with hiring contractors. The mentality is, once you're done, you ship it off, you start another project. So you're not around to maintain it. From within the institution, you are contributing to the distribution or the base platform that all the sites are coming off of. You have a stronger interest to stick around because it's coming from within the school itself.
And you get those questions over and over again. If I get one more question saying, how do I log into a site? I'm just going to jump out of my skin. It's like, oh wow, we can't solve that one.
I want to also add something about why schools really do like Drupal, the education system. It's not only that it's so flexible, because it's open source. If it doesn't already do something you want to do, you can just go ahead and write your own module and extend it to go ahead and do whatever you want. The benefit also of open source is since there's no licensing fees, you can put all of your available financial resources into modifying the service fees of hiring someone, whether within or out. If you're going with some proprietary system, you have to handle both things.
But now that they spent like $1 billion trying to build a forum site in Fusion. 6 guys working on it. They couldn't get it to work. A Drupal guy came in, put in a distribution, got it working in a couple of months. So basically $1 billion, you got nothing. one guy got to work in a few months. That's what he's doing. And you know, I don't understand what this big thing with WordPress is. In the end, a site's only as usable as the content, as far as the content authors are willing to actually learn. You have people out there who just refuse to learn anything because they, for some reason, and no system or architecture or distribution is ever going to solve that. So.
But I think there's been a real arrested development in development. When you go back to the innovations that they had in managing news and Open Atrium, they just rethinking it in a different way. We haven't had those ideas in a long, long time. But let me do my WordPress thing, because Lisa opened my eyes to what the difference is between WordPress and Drupal. And the reason WordPress is so easy to theme is because it's a page. When you're adding content to it, you're adding content to a page. And so when you're doing with Drupal, you're feeding a database, and views can throw it out in any sort of way. It can throw out every single piece. So with Drupal, there's so many more pieces in play that it short circuits the theming process. With WordPress, you know you have a page, you have a sidebar, you have a header and a footer, and you can relax and you can do a very calming, simple theme because there's very few elements in play. With Drupal, you're like, ooh, and it short circuits it, and people are too tired, so they never go the extra inch of actually refining a theme. So that's why Drupal always looks, because you get halfway and you're like, okay, I gave them great content, I'm calling it a night. But it's not fundamental to the platform. It's fundamental to the theming blocks. Just the simple thing is much easier to do. But if you're a university, you don't want to bury your content in a page. You need control over it so you can use it in different ways.
I would argue that the reason people think WordPress is like that is they don't know how to use WordPress either. But I think that goes to your point that the vast majority of people don't have the time or willingness or interest in learning. And the reason WordPress is more popular is because you can actually do something with it without having to spend any time learning.
And it doesn't fight you.
You can build virtually anything in either platform. One platform or the other will be much better suited to many projects. And then there's a big
And there are a lot of outside developers who obfuscate the process on purpose. Like I have a website that I'm working on, and the front page is not editable because the bastards made it really complicated. I created a template that's really easy, doesn't use panels, doesn't use views. In fact, I took all the views and ripped it out. So now we can actually translate it. And you know, it's like.
But you've done that as a developer. WordPress is much simpler. I mean,
Well, what I do is I build widgets for content
Exactly.
authors so they can build content really fast. What I found was because the site uses panels and views and services and all sorts of references, it became too complicated for the content authors. There was too much cognitive load. And what I did was basically build templates that look and feel kind of like WordPress, and you can do that with Drupal. And I wonder if WordPress can go the opposite direction. I really doubt that.
It can. It's just why would you bother? People do. People make amazingly complicated sets of WordPress, and it's not as well architected. It's not a good choice. A lot of major media sites run that, but they have a very particular kind of site.
And I knew there was a problem because I created these templates for one thing, and the content authors were using it for everything because they didn't want to use panels and views and all the complicated stuff that the Drupal community kind of pushes on them.
I think you bring up a really good point. You're starting to make widgets for your content authors. The experience for just a content editor or a site builder can often be very overwhelming and challenging because the developer decided to use panels, and now I have no idea how to get to that page in the admin section to change the title of this block. It's buried in there. I think the Drupal community constantly needs to be working on those tools. Distributions are one way to bring all these features together. there's always been lots of talk about how maybe add an interface, you know, more usable. If you don't already know what you're looking for, you know, so that you can actually find things. And I,
But
for
Michelle-
a while, was working on a distribution to bring all these pieces in, and you can, you know, plug and play, like so, turning features on and off, and install dummy content, so you can preview what it would look like if you actually had your content in there, and then you turn it all off and everything. And it is a lot of work to build an entire system that a site builder can just click and then work for anything.
So Aaron, just 1 second. This is the fundamental thing that's different about an academic environment, and it really is different. It's not a one-off case. It's a cohesive thing which really lends itself to a certain approach that people can learn, and so you don't have these things of trying to jump into a situation that you have to get up to speed. You establish a protocol, and it becomes, and so that's what Pantheon facilitates, I think, really, really brilliantly. Aaron first, and then Ben.
I just want to know, maybe,
Oh, you don't have to stand, Aaron, but
when WordPress was built, the vision, right, so blocks, it was extend page, so that's the goal. But for Drupal, the vision behind Drupal is to be able to build the complex projects in this website. You don't expect a non-developer to get involved in complex projects. So that's the more risk. Just to be able to do it. If you just think there's something basic, fine, we
It'd be nice to separate the content management experience even further from the site building experience, so that it's.
Ben?
you don't focus so much on it.
So, just that, yeah, so what Pantheon really provides the academic environment is the easy way to use the same base and keep that base up to date, you know, with all the modules and all their security.
And share it with other people.
Because they just, you know, they're downstream repositories. And as for sharing features with other sites and other people, that's not anything that's built into the Pantheon platform. That's something that Features provides. And there's sort of a new effort to do what Michelle was talking about. Nejo, who's done a lot of work with Features and is trying to build on that with new configuration management to be able to have these whole ecosystems of easily shareable features, because you know the old features module has a problem. It was trying to deal both with moving content, moving you know packets of configuration from dev to staging to production.
Right.
And now that part is solved by Drupal 8's configuration management for Drupal 8. So you can send configuration, chunks of configuration for the whole site from dev to stage to production. But if you want to say, oh, I have this nice feature, I want to share it with you. I have this nice set of configuration, I want to share it with you. That's not what Drupal core handles. And so Nejo's trying to build it from the ground up with configuration share and a whole bunch of modules that sort of will underlie a rebuilt Drupal 8 features module for sharing packets of content. Very grand vision, you definitely need some help, but it's sort of calling that related ideas of really being able to share all of these features through Drupal.
How does an app library fit in with that? Like the app library that you see in like Open Atrium or Panopoly or Open Academy. I mean,
it's something that app libraries could be built on top of something like this, but getting the fundamentals right, I think, is necessary. Because the problem with old school features was that you'd get one and it dragged 50 in, and then you'd want to change something, you'd have to break out of 50 features all at once, and it's just unworkable. So figuring out, sort of how to have nested levels of configuration so that you can just, grab what level you need. So you can have one that ties a whole site, a whole distribution together, and then you can have another that, builds features with that. And it'd be interesting to see how it can tie in with such a system of like, well, here's the feature for the engineering department, here's the feature for science, all of that. So
So
Yeah.
the concept of subtheming and base themes, but at the module level,
Yeah.
or the bundle of modules.
Yeah, exactly, the bundle of configuration.
And someone's working on that?
Yeah.
How close?
I mean, we got some basic things working, and, yeah, just
Yeah,
very hard.
Drupal 8 or Drupal 7?
Drupal 8.
That's so cool.
I'd be curious to know what people think in terms of, you think academic sites should move to Drupal 8 now?
Yes.
Stable.
Because Drupal 8 handles services better than Drupal 7, and sites have to talk to each other. That's one of the things we did at Babson, is all of our sites talk to each other, and it was really painful. We did it through instantiating a PDO object across all sites, so we ran multiple databases. And so it was, and then I found out about REST WS, and I thought, oh, we gotta just create an API, opened it up, and pulled that information, and I heard, and Drupal 8 does that with ease.
Bill, that would be a phenomenal presentation for Boston Drupal group meetup if you made that presentation. That would be really, really powerful. Because, I mean, that need is so common. If you have an event, not just an event, you have a person profile. Sharing information is
Actually,
just...
one of the things we did at Babson was every site had a section on it that was personalized to whoever was viewing it. So no matter, so we had several portals, and no matter what portal you want, I created this thing called the ribbon menu, and it gave you all your classes, all your groups, all your discussions, and it was all about you.
Bill, can I ask, given that so many people of the Drupal developers left Babson, how are they doing?
That's just Jamie left. I actually stole another Drupal developer from Babson. And started this.
So this is kind of my argument for Pantheon, that the maintainability. I mean, with all this migration, if there isn't a structure in place and an interlocking modular structure, these places are just dead in the water. So you've built something cool, and it's like a town in Brasilia.
And on that note, we're still looking for Drupal developers at assistants.
Bass is probably looking too. And how do you have your sites talk to each other? Because you talked about that as an advantage, and that's not a Pantheon thing per se, but what feature, what, were you just using ours?
No, I lug it on my back like a Sherpa. No, what I'm advocating is something similar to what Acquia came up with that shared. I don't know what their new thing is, but in universities you need people centralized, you need courses centralized, you need publications centralized, events centralized. So you need 4 external things, and you need to use an API to pull it in. So that is something that has to happen at the university level. And Yale's done that, Dartmouth has done it. Those are the only 2 I know, but that's what all universities need to do, is they need to take control of that content. And libraries should take control of publications. And then make it so people can pull it in by using their API. But no, I'm not using it. Was there another question? No.
Just a really quick follow-up on that. Like, you talked about using REST APIs for doing this sort of thing, which is good. There's also a movement called Indie Webcamp, where the idea is to have all of this sharing on the, like, old style, like, the way websites share, like, idea of RSS feeds, but, just HTTP protocols, like, come up with protocols for, like, the microformats, that are just building very useful definitions of content that websites can understand by just using URLs, nothing else.
Bridget was describing that, and it sounds awesome.
Fancier than a little bit, it's a little bit more technology agnostic than even REST endpoints and stuff like that. So the idea that you have your user marked up with microformats, and the person marked up with microformats, and the other site can just point at that URL and use that piece of data and web mentions to let sites know when they talk back and forth. So like trying to build the whole like social interactions that we are used to on a site like Twitter or Facebook into protocols built on top of just the normal web links and stuff like that. So next Indie Webcamp is coming up here at MIT in Cambridge on the 14th and 15th. of
14th
March.
and 15th of, wow. Is there a fee?
No.
It's free. And last year, Tim Berners-Lee just like came in like, hey guys, what's up? This is interesting.
Oh,
We were
wow.
there for a few hours.
That sounds cool. 14th and 15th of March. Because there's so much on Facebook that I just don't want to go near it, and I don't want to like hover even like in a neighborhood. But there's content I want from it. But yeah. But it's an alien discussion. I mean, no one here works in this field, so these issues with Open Scholar. When I realized how brilliant Open Scholar was, and I had no idea, and no one from that team ever came to the meetups for all the 6 years, never presented anything from it, so they go wandering down a path that they can't maintain, but doing something really, really brilliant. So just that disconnect of not being part of a community to being plugged into to knowing. And we lose out too because they don't need documentation because their interface is so intuitive and so simple that a child can like build something incredibly complicated. That's a real achievement. But go look at the code and you just feel like, the image I use, it's like a glacier that's been rolling towards us since 2008, and it just picks up everything that it passed over, never let go of anything, and it's all just like sitting there and you think, no wonder they have an army maintaining this. But was this more rant than content? Oh,
And thank you very much.
thank you.